Ronel Blanco has been great for the Houston Astros this year. What a move by Dana Brown, moving into the starting rotation. We know that. And everybody's clamoring for Ronel Blanco to be an all-star representative of the American League. No, it shouldn't stop there. We need to start paying attention to Ronel Blanco as a Cy Young of the American League. Let me throw some numbers your way with where Ronel Blanco stacks up in the American League. Ronel Blanco, 7th in WAR for a pitcher. That's 0.8 back of Tyler Anderson. Ronel Blanco has the second best ERA in the AL, 2.34, behind only Tanner Hoctois, who's first at 2.18. Ronel Blanco's tied for 4th in wins with 8, 2 behind Seth Lugo. He's 6th in whip, sub-1 whip. Tyler Gilbert first. He's first in hits per 9, gives up just over 5 hits per 9 inning. He's one of only 3 pitchers in the AL with a complete game shutout. And Ronel Blanco is tied for first in the American League in opponent batting average of 164. 7th in WAR, 2nd in ERA, tied for 4th in wins, 6th in whip, 1st in hits per 9, one of only 3 pitchers with a complete game shutout, tied for first in opponent batting average. It is time for our campaign for Ronel Blanco to be an American League Cy Young in 2024.
He's a candidate. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I can't argue with the fact that he needs to be considered strongly if he keeps this up. And obviously he has to keep it up for the full season. You don't want to Russell Wilson it and be in there for half a season or more and then fall apart, or even Fromber last year. But right now, and that, obviously all your numbers back it up, but he's been the biggest surprise we've said on this team. And there's no reason to think he's going to slow down.
It's a slam dunk all-star. Like, it's ridiculous if Ronel Blanco is not on the all-star team. And the reason that I threw in all the people that he's chasing is because he's chasing somebody else in every stat. So there's not a clear runaway winner. Like, he's behind Tyler Anderson in WAR. He's behind only one guy, Tanner Hoctois, who is first in ERA at 2.18. He's the pitcher for the Red Sox. Tied for 4th in wins behind Seth Lugo. So, there's nobody running away with it. He's not trailing one pitcher in ERA. He's not trailing and wins. He's not trailing the same guy in WAR. He's trailing a bunch of different guys and a bunch of different stats. Ronel Blanco's been really stinking good, and it is time for us to be paying attention to Ronel Blanco as a serious Cy Young candidate. I mean, second best in ERA, tied for 4th in wins, 7th in WAR. That is in the consideration. No. And one thing we forget, and you can't, you're not going to boost Ronel Blanco because of this. He also missed at least one start, maybe 2. He missed 10 games because he was suspended. But you can't give him points for that because it was his own doing.
Can you take him away? Because that's the one thing.
So.
Yeah, that's the one thing you got to
yeah.
be concerned with is that voters, and you know how political all this stuff gets, that could actually hurt him. Not the fact that even more so than missing the starts themselves is the fact that there's probably people that are going to be hard asses and want to hold it against it.
I mean, probably you could argue it. I think you're right, Joel, but you could argue it shouldn't, because it's not like he came back and then numbers dropped off, planet Earth, and he plummeted back to a mid-4 ERA like he was last year. He's kept it up. He dominated the best offense in baseball in the Orioles, and by the time people are voting on this, he would obviously have a chance to do it for another couple of months to even submit that even further. I do think the Astros, look, it shouldn't necessarily have to be backed by a winning baseball team, but it doesn't hurt. I think it would help his case if the Astros are also in the playoff race. I mean, baseball is a sport I think that's more forgiving than others because they look at WAR and not necessarily team success, but that would help as well, I think, if the Astros are in a playoff race.
Yeah, I think that would that factors in. I think it does. Even though you look at WAR more than not nowadays, I still think it helps being on a winning team. Like, voters were criticized for voting Trout as MVP year in, year out, whenever they were
MVP
way back.
Like a 65 win.
Yeah, I do think that you should be on a winning team. I don't think it matters as much now as it did 25 years ago, but I think it should. Quite
Does
frankly.
the no-header and the no-hitter helps?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
How would it
because
hurt?
now I'm saying now on top. Well, because some people are going to say it was before he got caught cheating, and then did that have something to do with it? But obviously, he has continued to be who he has been all season long, regardless. But again, it's a political vote. But at the same time, I think it can only help that if you're having the season you're having, and on the cherry on the top is, and you also threw a no-hitter this year, it should help him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the no-hitter helps. I wonder if the voters will ding him for the sticky stuff. It wouldn't shock me if they do. Plus, it wouldn't shock me if they ding him for 2 other reasons. One, was a complete no-name around Major League Baseball coming into this year. Like, no one around Major League Baseball knew who Ronel Blanco was or were considering Ronel Blanco to be one of the best pitchers in the American League. Also, the whole Astro thing.
I was going to say, he's an Astro.
I think the Astros get dinged a little bit. And then on top of that, you had, they found rosin and sweat on the glove, blah, 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 blah. 8437 brings up your point. Ronel Blanco doesn't trail anybody and no hitters, too. 6941, the Astros should never participate in an all-star game, not in Houston, since being made the scapegoat to the sign-stealing era. Remember they did that first year?
Yeah, they did.
No one went.
They did. Yep.
Yeah,
Altuve was the first one to say no, and then everybody kind of fell in line and did the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you see the hats they got to wear? If you got to go to Arlington and wear that, looks like you're working at a fast food joint, maybe that's a reason enough to boycott the All-Star game in Arlington.
Crazy
They're
stuff.
ugly.
Any exception to Ronel Blanco being in the American League Cy Young? Any exception? I don't see an exception. No one says anything. No. Twitchers are on board. Sensei, yes, sir, 2 exclamation points. Sports LM, best take ever, exclamation point, although I'm not even sure he's talking to me. He might be talking to one of the Twitchers. I'd be surprised, though, because Twitchers never have good takes. June 2 real, Ronel Blanco MVP. Too much on the MVP. We're going, not the MVP, but definitely the American League Cy Young.